Hi Taurus, and welcome to your 2023 video. Happy New Year, first and foremost. All the best to you and yours. So I'm very glad that you're here today listening because you are, without a shadow of a doubt, surely in my mind, the it sign of the year. You really have fortune smiling down upon you, some wonderful transits coming into the year to help you out so very much. Something's coming in and something's going out. But either way, you're basically the zodiac's fave this year, with Jupiter, the planet of good fortune, showering his blessings all over your life, making you a popular choice with all people and any endeavor that you wish to undertake. Let's begin with your first house. Before we get into Jupiter going there, we have to address that the North Node is still in your sign. So if you listened to last year's video or you're on my Patreon, you will know that the North Node signifies illusions and things that aren't necessarily organic or pure. And since the first house is the house of the body, just to be careful for the rest of the year, taking care of your health, eating pure food as much as you can, and staying away from processed food to the best of your ability, just to upkeep health. That is looking very, that's coming up pretty strongly. So keep an eye out on that. On the topic of the North Node, in July, the North Node moves into your 12th house, into the sign of Aries. So luckily, a less intense feeling will now be coming over you. And now it's going into the house of sleep. So though you lessen in intensity in some ways, you might feel a little bit of restlessness. And this really makes sense because the first house has a lot to do with our path in this world that we walk. And the North Node can signal a new path. You might have spent the past year and a half really focusing strongly on yourself, doing something new, trying something new, changing careers. Hey, being a whole new person, good for you. Taking some seminars or courses. And now you need to unwind a little bit. But because you've been doing so much and getting that work started, it's hard for you to rest because you've really got some great momentum behind you. And honestly, I don't think you'll get much of a chance because you still have some eclipses to get through. On May the 5th, 2023, at 14 degrees and 58 minutes, there's going to be a partial lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio, and then October the 28th at 4:24 p.m., 5 degrees, 9 minutes of Taurus. So you still have to get through the spring and the autumn. So some of this intensity is still a little bit residual because we had very powerful eclipse in May in the sign of Scorpio. It was a total lunar eclipse at 25 degrees. So if you've got any planets around there in Taurus or Scorpio, you could have really felt that very strongly. It was a very powerful eclipse. And we've got some residual energy to get through this year, which means there's still some focusing on yourself, on your path, on your work, and your relationships, and your sense of well-being. But you do have a lot of help. As I said, the North Node is going to be leaving and Jupiter will be entering your first house. So this is pretty much the best thing that could happen to a person, and you're very lucky because he's going to enter in May of this year, May the 16th, and stay there until May 2024. This is very good for all things luck, adventure, children, education, traveling, your spiritual life, your creativity, your belief system, and of course, falling in love. Jupiter from the first tends to attract a little bit of flesh to the bones. If you've been trying to bulk up or look a certain way, this could be the time. If you've been trying to slim down, be mindful that Jupiter really favors fatty foods and sugar, so you know what to keep in moderation in order to get there. On the topic of health, if you're looking to improve your health, surely the second half of the year will be very nice. I would consider some sort of spiritual alignment, and with the South Node entering the 6th, do not be opposed to alternative healing methods, something like a chiropractor, or to reduce, let's say stress-related weight gain or mental health instability, something like meditation or having someone to speak to. some sort of self-reflection, things that you wouldn't normally find prescribed to you within a doctor's office. Of course, always go to your doctor and be responsible, but don't rule out everything. Speaking of the sixth house, something like a routine, decluttering, a light walk every evening, that could do wonders. Speaking of walking, motion and movement, travel is really, really looking hot for you, Taurus, especially to foreign lands. Leaving the borders of your home country becomes a probability in 2023. You could be looking to isolate yourself a little bit from your surroundings, daydream a lot, escape your reality. You could create a new one in the process of daydreaming, so go you. But really, travel does look very good for you in the second half. I also wouldn't rule out foreigners coming to visit you where you are as well. Now, we've also got love. Love is really on the upswing for you. You're just on fire this year, so I love that for you so very much. You might be burned out thinking about love, to be honest, because those cycles of eclipses that I mentioned earlier really could have just rocked you a little bit too much. But there's still some juice left to squeeze out, so let's get into it. Anything is possible. We might want to set our intentions on the dates given in early May, late October. And since you still have some of this intense energy speaking to you, you could use it to focus on broadening what you would like from a partner. And I would also suggest, if you're dating, not to take anyone too seriously if you're single between the start of the year to mid-January. And ultimately, if you could hold off a little bit longer, that would also serve you quite nicely. So maybe around Valentine's Day or a little bit later, you can form some new bonds or jump right in. Now, speaking of meeting someone, Venus is going to spend a very long time in the sign of Leo this year. She will be there from early June to early October till October the 8th. So she can spend so much time. She goes retrograde July 22nd to September the 3rd. So remember, around that time, you could run into somebody you've known before in your neighborhood. Why? Because Venus is going to be in your fourth house of the home. So you could meet someone really close to where you live in your area, a local cafe. You never know. You could be carpooling and offer to drive some friends home and they say, hey, I've got my friend or my cousin, and they actually get into your car, and that's how you end up meeting them. I mean, it could happen. It happened to my parents, believe it or not. So you never really know, but just keep an open mind. All right, and you might run into someone you've known before, like I said, or get back together with a partner late July through early September. So August is really the month if you're looking to get back together with somebody. If you're looking for new love, then you've got the whole of June and July and September to the first 8 days of October, where Venus will be in Leo. After that, she enters your fifth house, Virgo, which is very, very nice. Venus in the fifth, yes, she is debilitated, but she's your chart ruler, and this is excellent for dating. So if you're really looking to, express your love, liven up a stale feeling relationship, meet someone new, then really the last quarter of the year is looking very strongly for you. So I would definitely not give up if you're on the lookout for a partner. Now, I did mention those eclipses. So remember that Scorpio is your opposite sign, and it's going to lead this eclipse season for you. It's the 7th from you, which means it will greatly impact all of your relationships, romantic and professional, but Jupiter really is helping you so greatly. So just know that when Jupiter transits the 1st, he does aspect the 7th, so he's really blessing relationships now. He can bring in a lot of them. He's also going to aspect your 5th and 9th houses, respectively, the house of falling in love, children, and beliefs and the condition of marriage. And as it's the 5th from the 5th, it's also a house that indicates children. If you're looking to grow your family or have your first child, between spring of 2023 to the spring of 2024 is such an ideal time for you, Taurus. I'm very, very happy for Taurus risings and Taurus moons. Now, Venus in the fourth, just going back to that, will just generally have you feeling really happy and content. Also, your mother could buy something luxurious for herself, such as a car, and so might you. Also, you might find yourself spending some time around swimming pools. So, quite a luxurious year. Like I said, you really come out on top and do quite well. So, I am very happy for you. All right, I would also like to make mention of something rather interesting. Speaking of love and romance, hey, we're talking about so many things coming into your life, but what about letting go of something? I gave you some suggestions on how you can let go of some unwanted body weight. How about people who slow you down? Well, March the 7th, Saturn enters your 11th house as Saturn makes his way out of your 10th house and into the 11th in Pisces. Now, when Saturn was in your 10th, you might have felt a lot of career delays, a lot of frustration surrounding career. I don't blame you. He can do that, and he asks us to work very hard. Sometimes it feels completely unfair to the extent that we're forced to push ourselves, but he always does reward us fairly and ethically. So if there is something that you've been striving towards, don't give up. You've got 2 months left, so please keep pushing until early March to ensure that when it's your turn, you come to collect. There's something there for you. In any case, things around saving money and speculation can also become prominent themes. He's there until 2025 for 2.5 years. Consider specifying some long-term goals because Saturn really likes to do great things. He's the planet of, there's a book called Saturn, the Planet of Greatness. He is the planet of greatness because without him, we cannot do anything that lasts a long time. And he's entering your house of long-term planning, wishes, goals, and gains. Now, this also rules networks, friends, colleagues, people that we run into, our social circles, and of course, our friends. So if there are some people that we can network with that are quite serious and will seriously help us, this is the time you really get down to business. If there's been people who you feel don't really understand or support you, or they could have been holding you back, in this 2.5 year cycle, you might see them fall out of your life, and just know that's perfectly natural and all is going according to plan. So do not despair because Saturn is the planet that rules our primal needs and excretion, so letting go of things. So when he's in the 11th, he might just say, it's time to let go of this, that, the other. The 11th ruler, Jupiter, in the 12th, the first 4.5 months of the year, while Saturn makes his entrance into the 11th, could really signify the loss of some kind of friendships because the 11th ruler has been in the 12th for some time. So if you've slimmed down that area of your life, I just don't want you to despair. And I do come bearing some good news, of course, because Saturn will oppose the 5th house from this placement, which also means you could really slim down a roster if you're dating or get very serious about what you're looking for, increase your criteria on paper. Of course, he's very serious. He does rule karma and hard work and ethics, so he doesn't really play around. You might just kind of feel a little bit tired and run down dating a certain type of person, and now suddenly you're interested in a very serious, maybe a cooler temperament, someone who's very established in life. But surely when he aspects or enters the 5th, hey, it could mean that when you meet someone, you're very serious about each other and you mean business, absolutely no nonsense dating. So there's something definitely to look forward to. Doesn't mean it won't be fun. It could mean it could last quite a long time. So I also want to mention that Mars is going through your 2nd house. He is currently retrograde until the 13th of January, and he will remain there until the 13th of March. So he's there for quite a while. One thing I would say is he can cause some expenditures. However, you can remedy this by speaking softly because Mars is very harsh, and when he's in the 2nd, he can make us a little bit cantankerous with our words or sharp and cutting because he is sharp and cutting. So trying to be more diplomatic if you can help it. Because he aspects the 8th house from this position, I would be very cautious if you aren't already with your savings, doing everything above board, especially if you're a business owner. because business really is a big highlight of this year for you. And if you're self-employed, if you're networking, all those things that I mentioned, with all these aspects hitting your seventh house with the eclipses and Jupiter aspecting, um, once he's done going retrograde, just remember Mars does rule uniform professions. That includes the police. So you don't want to get caught speeding or doing something silly and then owing money on a ticket or an unpaid tickets pile up somewhere. In terms of business as well, you might run the risk of being audited. So you definitely want to make sure that you file everything accordingly. So this is my one big sobering takeaway for your sign, is to beware of potential losses, all right? Losses in friendships, and also do not lend money to friends you cannot afford to be without. You might not see it again because you might not see those people again, okay? So if there's anything precious to you, like, I don't know, vintage something of those Pyrex things that people really like, just be very careful. If you lend it to someone, you might not ever see it again. So in any case, really big things that light up this year is your path in life, joyfulness, more laughter, love, your sense of self, and of course, money and work. But love, children, that pulls through so strongly. If you would like a detailed personalized reading, you can find me. There's more information linked below in the description box. Thank you so much for being here, Taurus. I wish you health, happiness, and love above everything else in great abundance. All the best to you for 2023. And as always, bye-bye for now.